know that you're a Mario Cristobal guy. And I know
100%.
that you were bouncing through the roof when he was hired. And I
Yep.
know you still trust his leadership and his ability to build a
I wonder
program.
if this is going where
All
I
of
think it's
that.
going.
However, most coaches that are eventually going to be successful show up and you see immediate results in some way, to some degree, to some level. Not that they go from being 7-5 to winning the ACC and going to the playoff, but you see, while they're building the program, you see benefits to their coaching style, their ability to coach up the current players, all of that. We could give 100 examples of that. So we're looking at a team, he didn't take over Kansas or Rutgers or Stanford or Cal or one of the worst programs in the Power Five. He took over a roster that's basically ranked in the top 15 in the country, and a team that, even with Manny Diaz issues and really not being ready to be a head coach at this level, still went 7-5 last year and went 8-4 the year before. So are you in any way disappointed or reassessing his abilities and where this thing's headed?
Disappointed, hell to the yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way around 5-7. And the beautiful part about it is, Mark, I said this before. When you really like somebody, or you really want them to get a job, or you really want them to get a promotion, you even harder on them. Now, I'm always going to be professional in the way that I carry myself, but there were times where I was very, very upset in the product in which that we saw. There were times, and I accepted this, Mark. After Bethune-Cookman, I was extremely down. I don't know if you saw it live or whatever, but I knew watching that, I go, this is going to be a rough one. It's going to be rough. And I know that he's not this great X's and O's guy. I know that he's not this great Saturday coach. So I'm going, good God, this might be a 8-4. This is catastrophic. I mean, I felt like we were more talented than at least two teams. So we would flip us from just making a bowl to being at least 8-4, counting wins like Duke and Middle Tennessee State. Shout out to Mike Elko for winning ACC Coach of the Year. What a great job by him at the University of Duke. But extremely disappointed. Disappointed in the outcome. Disappointed in them not being able to find an answer. That was something that I was able to say I was going to hang my hat on. You got such an experienced staff, such an experienced coach who's been a part of 2 or 3 rebuilds. In his time at Miami, when he got there in '97, they were coming off sanctions and they were not a very good team, and was a part of them building a great team. He goes to Rutgers, that was 1-9 when him and Schiano left Miami to go take over Rutgers, and they go on to be one of the better teams in college football. FIU, he built not great, but gets them to their first and only 10-win season, get them to one of their only bowl wins. Their only conference championship is still associated with Coach Mario Cristobal. So he has done these things as a rebuilder. But again, Mark, as bluntly as I can put it, extremely disappointed with not being able to find answers in games. With you talked about this team not being prepared. Well, week in and week out, I didn't see it being very prepared. And when you talk about unique situations, you talk about situations that, yes, if you want to pinpoint them with USC or with Duke or with Notre Dame or with LSU, yes, Miami looks horrible. But we also aren't able to be there every single Saturday or every single day, Mark, and see how these young men responded during the week. And we have a professional as a head coach. He ain't going to come on and say, hey, these guys freaking suck. They gave up. No one wants to fight. No one cares. They're showing up late to practice. Players are getting suspended. They're getting in fights. They're leaving the locker room dirty. They're not going to class. They're not trying. I'm not saying these things happen. I'm not saying these things didn't happen. But he's not going to come out and expose them for that. And it got all exposed on Saturdays. Because, Mark, as they say, you do the little things right enough, they show up all the time. And I thought that Coach Steele would be able to find solutions and not keep going to this cover 0 or this cover 1 and putting players out there that we know can't play that scheme, can't play. They don't have the speed to play that man coverage, but for some reason you keep calling it and you keep putting them out there to do it. We're not rotating younger guys in. We didn't give young guys an opportunity to see if they were different. This is probably the most angry I've been thinking about this because I had accepted it early on. I had accepted early on that this was a slow team. They looked like they didn't care, and they were not playing hard against Bethune-Cookman. And people told me that I was crazy. It's just Cookman, Holloway, chill. I'm like, no. They got a brand new coach, all these facilities, all this money, all this NIL, and they are still going out there like they don't give a damn. And it showed up multiple times this year. No, I'm not saying everybody deserves to get kicked out. What I'm saying is either way, and however you want to come up with the answer to it, it needs to be found. Whether that answer is young men finding new homes or the grown-ass men, the coaches, finding new homes. But as that head man, it all starts and stops with him, our head of football operations, our general manager, Alonzo Highsmith, and athletic director, Dan Radakovich. But again, as relates to football, it's going to fall at the feet of Coach Mario Cristobal. So, yes, I'm still all in with Coach Cristobal. I love him, appreciate him as a person. I think he's a great guy and a really good coach. There's a lot of things that he has to look within himself to find out also. You know, us not knowing when to call timeout, us getting false starts after a timeout, us looking ill-prepared. On the road, Miami looked like a better team than at home. You got to figure out what the hell's happening there. I don't know. Is it your artillery? Are you giving them too much time off? You know, are you waking the guys up too early before home games? Who knows? There's a lot of stuff that he has to fix with himself and with this program. And not just, he's doing a great job of the recruiting and the talent acquisition, but you just throwing 5 stars at stuff and not putting them in the right situation coaching-wise and culture-wise won't fix it. And I trust him, Dan Radakovich, and Alonzo Highsmith to get it done.
Some of the first-year head coaches you threw out there were obviously going to be successful. You know, Brian Kelly left a tremendous program at Notre Dame. Marcus Freeman walked into a great situation. It goes back to what you said earlier when you said, you know, you kind of took a round number guesstimate as to how many situations does a new coach come into that's a bad situation versus a good situation. Well, that was obviously ready-made to win. So that aside, Brian Kelly goes to LSU, and even though the roster wasn't left in the best in a typical LSU place, it was still lots of talent there. Of course, Lincoln Riley, in no other era would he be able to take over at USC and do what he did this year, but the transfer portal's ready-made for just completely turning over a roster and everything. The one that gets me is Mike Elko at Duke. Wow. Never been a
great
head
coaching
coach.
Job. Nope.
You know, we're not talking about some great head coach that we knew, okay, well, he's always turning things around. It's this guy or that guy or this guy. You know, defensive coordinator, Texas A&M, comes in. They won one game in the ACC the last 2 years put together. They were 1-17 in the ACC.
Doormats, Mark. Complete doormats. And they're this is
good.
Crazy to say out loud, guys. They are one high-low penalty away from arguably being in the ACC championship game playing Clemson.
Yeah.
Now, yes, they did lose to Georgia Tech on a field goal, and that was one hell of a game to do a film breakdown on, too. good teams as far as playing each other. Maybe not win-loss record, but they played really well that day and healthy. Jeff Sims was on that, things of that nature. But yeah, man. I agree. I agree 100%. And this is why I say sometimes it could just be your philosophy. It could just be the way that you sound, the way that these young men respond, because Duke was never had this great recruit out there or these amazing. I mean, their defensive line coach is our former defensive line coach at Miami, and they wrecked us like no tomorrow, and Coach Jess Simpson. So he put together a nice staff out there at Duke, and these young, they responded to him. And this is why I say that you got to be able to point a large chunk of that pie to Coach Cristobal, because how did your young men not respond to you? The two-time national champion, the rebuilder. They didn't even buy in for you. And that's where it hurts the most. And for the Lane Kiffin guys that were laughing and saying, "Oh, Lane wouldn't have done this, Lane wouldn't have done that, Lane would have won all blah, blah, blah games." Cool. He's not our head coach, so it doesn't matter. Coach Cristobal is.
One other note about Mike Elko, and then I'll drop the Mike Elko take on this, is the other thing that's impressive to me is how competitive Duke was this year. So you can go across the country. We see it all the time. Guy will take over a program that's a 2-10, 3-9 kind of team, and he'll be able to figure out, kind of piece together a 7-5 team. But it's like when they lost those 5, he still did a great job to lift them up to 7-5, but man, they got completely outclassed 3 or 4 times when they didn't lose big. They lost every game by 1 score. They were in every game.
Coaching. X's and O's wise. I mean, I'm watching them play Miami. I'm like, wow, okay, what hurt them before? And again, they forced 8 turnovers in 1 game.
Yeah.
Unheard of.
Yeah.
We fumbled the ball on the kick
return. They were gifted some of them. Some of them
right.
Gifts. Yeah.
Some of them were just complete lobs with 3 DBs over there and no one's even in the vicinity. And then, of course, Miami made their adjustments, came roaring back and got to 31 while Duke was at 20-something, took the lead, and then Duke just had all those turnovers. But I think it could be similar to a not even what could I say that the Elko at Duke could be? Maybe Shiano at Rutgers. But even then, it took him a little bit to build it. But then eventually, it was really tough and spitting out NFL guys. Who was a good defensive coordinator that was just waiting on a head coaching job? And it wasn't like his name popped up all the time. I mean, he got the Duke job. It's not like he got the big name brand job. He got the Duke job. So it wasn't. He must have just had such a great. These young men just responded to him. It's just that simple. They went out, they played hard for him, and I don't know if they'll turn around and be the same team next year.
Sure.
Maybe he gets fired 3 years from now. Who knows? I don't wish that upon people unless you coach at Tallahassee, and I hope you suck. But what's the longtime defensive coordinator that's who I was trying to think of? The Kentucky head coach,
Mark Stoops.
Stoops. That's what it reminds me of. The way that they play, it feels like Stoops at Kentucky. I don't know if it's just because it's the blue and the blue eye associated that way, but man, the way they play tenacious defense and it's multiple and it's aggressive, I really, 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 I really like Coach Elko there. I liked his defenses at A&M. I really did. And a couple of those guys, much to the chagrin of the Miami Hurricanes, but I wonder if a couple of those guys that keep hitting the portal follow him to Duke from A&M.